Chapter 16. Bon Voyage. The next morning arrived too soon, a pale, dreamy gray, with the boys up early and gone to get things done. The days seemed to bleed together, each flowing into the next, strung out like beads on a necklace in an impressionistic watercolor dream. Diana and I were mercifully left to sleep, both wearing our clothes from the night before, and over the moon that we were invited to stay. Although my own feelings were now conflicted, there was still a sense of elation between us, that we were sharing something inexplicably precious together. Arguably, she had the better night, because I had spent the hours before dawn feeling uneasy, sleeping in the wrong room with the wrong guy, and she hadn't. Lucas was kind and soft with me, but he realized soon enough that I wasn't really into the makeout session and let it go. I was not attracted to him in that way, although I really liked him and felt a warmth of affection toward him. There were no fireworks at all. Affection commingling with sexual innuendo was rampant from the night before, invisibly lurking, waiting to be seen in the light of day. It was all too much subtlety to try to interpret too soon, as Diana and I checked ourselves in the cosmopolitan bathroom mirror. Cohorts to the end, we both looked relatively refreshed, if a little blurry around the edges. She showed me a washcloth trick to brush my teeth with Lucas's toothpaste, and I put my hair back in a ponytail to run around the floor and find something interesting to do. I was really hoping to see Anthony, but how was I going to explain that I had gone off with someone else when he had invited me to go off with him? I found myself with Diana in the party central room, where there was food and coffee waiting for any hungry travelers that came along. Lucky for me, explaining to Anthony wasn't going to be necessary. Several of the crew from the party that went until dawn were discussing his return to the smoky room following my departure. I suddenly found my wearily excited coffee-seeking self fully alert and listening carefully to each word. I gathered that he returned to the party after I had gone, saying that he felt restless and asking about me. After being told that I went with Lucas, he left fuming within minutes. I felt awful. The only thing I wanted to do now was to explain to Anthony what had happened, and very specifically what had not happened between myself and Lucas. I was stuck with no way out except to leave in a band soap opera that was hush-hush, with a very real undercurrent that dragged anyone else under along with it. I was innocently caught, like a butterfly, in a web of dynamics that were dark, complex, sticky, and ego-based. The energy dynamics of people when music is involved intensifies the best and worst in everyone, and Voyage was no exception to the human condition. As I contemplated my ridiculous predicament, Lucas walked in, put his arm around me, and gave me a kiss on the cheek. So, what was between us was working for him, as convoluted and confusing as it was to me. Following the good morning kiss on the cheek greeting, he said that he had some things to do, but it wouldn't take long. Diana and I were given free rein to stay and do whatever we wanted. He seemed perfectly fine, happy, glowing even, with the shortest makeout session ever. Maybe he was simply happy that Anthony didn't get me and he did, or that he got what Anthony wanted. On his way out, he pulled me aside and said, "Thank you for last night. You're so sweet. You made me feel like I was in high school again." I looked at him and said, "You're welcome," feeling appreciative that he had gotten something out of it. It had just massively complicated every signal going on between myself and Anthony. I was grateful that I was given a safe place to crash for the night with a kind human being. For him, it was a return to a more innocent time in his life, and that was something that he needed to soothe an invisible wound that he had yet to reveal. About 30 minutes later, to my great surprise and happiness, Bindi strolled in saying, "Good morning, sweet Cheri, and how are you today?" Well, there was a million-dollar question if I ever heard one, and I really wanted to answer him with the truth. Instead, I told him that I was all right. Raising his eyebrows, he said, We are going for a walk around Frankfurt, and you are invited to come with us. Lucas is waiting downstairs and asked me to come find you two." Bindi conveyed warmth like the sun, and it was gratefully accepted. Diana and I glanced at each other and beamed as the invitation briefly interrupted the enthrallment between Diana and Sam. Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely yes, I would like to walk around Frankfurt to get some perspective. Walking around Frankfurt was something that I was good at. Juggling guys was not. Where you go, I go, I said to Bindi, only half joking. "Why don't you go put on those boots of yours and come on down to the cafe? Anthony wants to go window shopping," said the man with the heart of gold. Thank God, he said Anthony! Fickle fate was throwing us together again, whether whim or destiny, charting a course that neither of us understood completely. Whatever it was happening now, and there was no escaping it. Bindi's energy was like a salve to my distressed psyche as I returned to the room to get my boots. My hope was somewhat expansive at the possibility of discerning how Anthony felt about the entire situation. How bad could it be? I pondered as I looked into the mirror at me, staring back at me. It was reasonably clear that it was deliberately engineered by Lucas and Caesar to keep him away from me, because of some freakish band politics that made no sense to me yet. I wondered if Anthony knew that too, as I pulled myself together, ready to go for a walk and get some air. Dressed in a borrowed shirt, my own boots and jeans, with refreshed makeup, I let down my hair. It'll do, I thought, as I grabbed my purse and met Bindi, who was waiting for me right outside the door to the room. We strolled down the hall together, side by side, with a great deal of mutual respect between us. He walked me to the elevator and said he was going to stop at his room, but I should go and meet Lucas in the lobby. Diana and Sam would meet us at the Continental Cafe in a little while. I walked into the elevator and pushed the down button, feeling confused about my current predicament. From Anthony's point of view, I had gone off with another guy. Even in my 16-year-old experience, that never seemed to go over well with anyone, ever. I stood alone in the modestly spacious, dimly lit, mirrored interior of the elevator, reminding me of a passage between worlds. Having precious few moments to myself, I took the opportunity to spin completely around, innocently like a child with arms out, counterclockwise, half dancing. I prayed for an answer to assist the situation that would ease the tension for everyone involved. When I reached the lobby, Lucas was waiting for me by the open, somewhat humble Continental Cafe that couldn't possibly live up to its name. Though industrious, it rambled, uninspired in decor, and spread out with a lack of intimacy that belied its title. He waved me over, smiling. We had some time to chat before meeting everyone at the front entrance of the hotel. Lucas started speaking to me quietly, as though I were a confidant. I was not unused to people trusting me, so I listened reflectively to his content, as he began to complain about having to babysit Anthony. "What do you mean you have to babysit Anthony?" I queried, trying not to sound really annoyed by the connotations, but wanting a straight answer. This was a crash course in Rockstar 101. Time to listen, learn, and figure out how to navigate the situation. Lucas explained with some barely muted resentment that Anthony was the baby of the band, and that everyone had to cater to him. Anthony had to be kept happy at all costs, to ensure that he would go out and perform like a trained seal night after night. So whatever Anthony wanted, Anthony got, just so long as the manager said it was okay. Everything was subjected to Rennie R's approval. I listened with great interest as Lucas explained further the litanies against him. If Anthony decided to have pizza at 5 a.m., Lucas was expected to get it for him. He went on to tell me that before being hired for Voyage, Anthony was a struggling singer just trying to scrape together a living, and had given up on making it. Voyage was his big break, but now that he had thousands of people idolizing him and girls throwing their panties at him every night, he didn't know how to handle it all. His fame didn't come gradually. It was hard and fast, and hit him like a truck. He spoke about Anthony with a lack of the kind of respect that I thought Anthony deserved. I took it in and understood it all too well, that Anthony was the cash cow of the band. When he arrived, the band started really charting songs, and that meant money, and money meant profit. So he was treated both like gold and like dirt, both loved and resented. The rest of the band had been together doing jam-worthy songs for quite some time, but the record company wanted more money. So they had to let go of their previous singer and try this new guy that no one really wanted, at the insistence of the manager. It was the tragic flaw of the music industry. Dollar signs or you're out. It was as if Anthony had been shoved down their throats, a kind of rescue remedy medicine for a band ailing in record sales. They were all seasoned musicians, with Caesar, a prodigy, having started playing the guitar at age 15. The band members couldn't help but resent Anthony's presence, but they had to make nice or their manager would shred them too. What he said went down, and that was that. He ruled with an iron fist, wrapped inside a velvet glove. So far, I was not deemed to be a threat by Rennie, so I was allowed to stay. The members also had to acknowledge that, with Anthony, the money was rolling in, and that made everyone happy, but created even more tension within the band. What no one else but me seemed to realize was the amount of pressure that it put on Anthony's shoulders. The real problem was that no one wanted Anthony to realize that he was the main reason for the band's last 2 successful albums. That would give him power, and no one wanted that. So they kept him on a leash, stringing along his self-esteem like a new puppy on a golden chain.